everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's 2024 and I am finally ready to talk about my favorite books of 2023. So quick stats referencing the journal here. I read 50, I knew that. I read 50 books this year. I'm very proud of it. I have not read this much since I was in college, so I'm really proud of myself for reading as much as I have this year. And I read a lot of good books, and I'm very excited to talk about them. So grab a snack, grab a coffee, let's get into it. If you hear Lion King and coughing in the background, that is just the life with a sick toddler, so please forgive me. Okay, so my number 10 book of 2023 was The September House by Carissa Orlando. This is kind of an odd one for me because it was technically a 4-star, and I have other 5 stars that didn't make my top 10 list, but I think what really made The September House stick out to me is just the concept of it. I think about this book all the time because I haven't read anything else quite like this before. So The September House is about a woman. I'm going to be like loosely talking about the plots because I did not write anything down and it's been a minute with some of these books, but it's about a woman who is living in her dream house. She found her dream house with her husband. It's everything they ever could have wanted. The only downside is that it's haunted, but she is so dedicated to living in this house because it's her dream. It is exactly what she's wanted in a home. So she's kind of decided that she's gonna put up with the BS that is all of the freaking ghosts and stuff, just because she so adamantly wants to stay here. So every September especially, the house is kind of full haunted. There's blood oozing out of the walls. There's ghosts trying to attack her, but she has stayed here long enough that she's kind of learned how to put up with it. She's learned how to handle every September. The only thing that stands in her way this September is that her daughter, who's older, I want to say she's like out of college, just got a job kind of age, her daughter decides that she wants to come home for the first time. Her daughter actually never lived in this house. By the time that they found this place, her daughter had already moved out. So her daughter wants to come home, and the reason her daughter wants to come home so badly is because her father, aka our main character's husband, is missing. We don't know what happened. All we know is that the dad is gone, and the daughter is obviously freaking out, and I think she's even more freaked out about the fact that her mom seems to be very lax about it. Like, she's not as concerned as the daughter is, and so the daughter's like, I need to come home. I want to figure out what happened to dad, and that is kind of where our story starts. But what I really loved about The September House is just the concept of putting up with the bullshit to stay in your dream home. Like, I've never found that before in a haunted house story where our main character is like, I'm gonna befriend the ghosts that I can, I'm gonna clean up the blood in the walls, I'm going to learn how to dodge the ghosts that are trying to bite my arm off because I love this kitchen and I love the views. Oh, this open floor plan, like, it's ridiculous. It's so campy and funny to me, and I had so much fun reading it for that reason. Like, watching our main character go through her day-to-day routine of avoiding all of these ghosts and like putting up with it was just, it was so funny. I loved it. The reason it wasn't a 5-star for me is that I think it didn't know tonally like where it was, because you would have the camp and the funny aspects of it, and then you would have these serious conversations of like her past and her relationship with her husband, her relationship with her daughter, and it was so back and forth, and so that would be a little bit jarring, and I would have trouble getting really into the story because it's like, am I supposed to be taking this seriously? Am I supposed to think it's funny? I can't tell. For that reason, I think that's what kept it from being a 5-star for me. But I thought it was really fun. If I ignored the serious aspects and just focused on the fun and camp of it, I really, really liked The September House. The next book on my top 10 list, my number 9, is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I'm so happy that I finally read this. This is one of those books where it's like, I wish I wouldn't have taken so long. I've had this book on my shelves for years now, and I've made myself do it this October. Like, I made myself read it. So glad that I did. I'm a huge fan of the Mike Flanagan miniseries on Netflix. It is one of my favorite miniseries, I think, to ever exist. It is so good. And I knew going into the novel, which is a classic, I knew that it wasn't going to be the same. If you didn't know that, if you're a fan of the show, the book is vastly different. Mike Flanagan definitely took the concept of Hill House and some of the characters, but very much made it his own. In the show, all of our characters are related. It's like they're a family, they're siblings, and that's not the case in the original novel. For example, I'm going to read off the back here. We have, like, Theo is an assistant, Luke is the inheritor of the estate of Hill House. Eleanor is just like a young woman with a dark past who shows up, and they're all brought there, I believe, by Luke, because it's either Luke or it's Dr. Montague, because Dr. Montague is looking for evidence of ghosts, and so he kind of, all of them come together for reasons, honestly, I can't even quite remember, but for some reason, they're all brought to the house, and we're looking for ghostly ghost stuff. So the story definitely focuses on our main characters just living in the house and the experiences that they're having within the house. But the house brings out the worst in our characters and brings out the darkest parts of their past. And the concept of Hill House kind of being a sucking, how do I put this? Hill House itself is definitely a main character because it's taking our characters prisoner, and it's kind of looking at them as prey, and Hill House is choosing its victims essentially to get sucked into the house and become one with it. So just Hill House as a haunted house is already super interesting, and I think that that's what makes The Haunting of Hill House so iconic. But it's also really interesting to see what it does to our main characters. Like, for example, we focus on Eleanor quite a bit, and to see her descent into madness by being in Hill House is so interesting to me, and I think it's very well done. And honestly, I don't think anything tops the first line of The Haunting of Hill House. I think it's honestly one of the best openers. No live organism can continue for long to exist sanely under conditions of absolute reality. Even larks and katydids are supposed by some to dream. Hill House, not sane, stood by itself against its hills, holding darkness within. It had stood so for 80 years, and it might stand for 80 more. Within, walls continued upright, bricks met neatly, floors were firm, and doors were sensibly shut. Silence lay steadily against the wood and stone of Hill House, and whatever walked there walked alone. So good. The next book, my number 8, I think, for 2023 was A Little Devil in America by Hanif. I actually don't know how to pronounce his last name. I'm so sorry. I will insert a pronunciation. I Googled it and I completely forgot how to say it now, but it's Hanif. And this is a really short book that is a collection of kind of essays and ramblings of Hanif talking about Black performance in America, specifically through dance. I feel like that's what was talked about the most. And honestly, what was so good about this story is not necessarily the content, like the concept of dance and stuff, and I don't find that super interesting. So him talking about things like Soul Train and talking about dance halls, and when people would have like dance offs that would go all night long and stuff like that, like that isn't necessarily interesting to me, but it's the way that Hanif talks about it, the way that he discusses the importance of it, how it made him feel as a teenager, as a child, as an adult, how it influenced him. That's what I found really, really interesting and so well done. Hanif is a fantastic writer, And what I really liked is he would have what felt like a stream of consciousness kind of rambling that would happen every other chapter, where one chapter would be like a pretty straightforward essay. The next one felt very stream of consciousness in the sense that it was all like one flowing sentence. There were no periods. And those moments in the book were so good, and they were often very heartfelt and emotional, and I just really enjoyed them. This is definitely a book that was so good to me because of the writing. The content itself was fine. I learned a lot about dance especially, but I didn't necessarily have a passion for it going in. But through Hanif's writing, it made me passionate about it. It made me interested. It made me want to look up more. And it had so much to say about Black culture in America and what makes us who we are. It was also incredibly heartfelt, and there were a lot of chapters that were really sad and hard to read, but I highly recommend this book, and I think that it's a book that anybody should read. My number 7 is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix, and this is probably my most controversial, I think, book on my list, because honestly, most reviews that I saw, especially by people I follow on Goodreads, they did not like this book. And this was, I think, this was my second Grady Hendrix, I think. And I loved this. I'm sorry, I loved the hell out of How to Sell a Haunted House. So again, we follow our main character. Can't remember her name for the life of me, but her mom and dad recently passed away. They were in, I believe, a car accident. They're dead. And so she has to go back home in order to like kind of get affairs in order. She has a brother who she doesn't really talk to, who is very irresponsible. He's kind of the reckless one of the family. She doesn't really trust that he's going to get things done. She has not been home in quite some time because she didn't necessarily enjoy her time growing up with her family in her house. But yeah, that's a part of it. But what this book really is at its core, and I think this is so important for people going into the book, this is a silly, goofy, wild, haunted house, haunted dolls book. I feel like this is a book, if you go into it thinking that it's going to be a very serious, slow, daunting, haunted story, you're probably going to hate it. But if you go into it knowing that the camp is there, that it's going to be so balls to the wall, crazy wild, then I think you're going to love it. And that's how I felt. There were so many moments of this book that genuinely terrified me. I did not know that I was as scared of haunted dolls and just like haunted toys and stuff, that I never thought that I was genuinely afraid of those things. But reading this book confirmed that I'm terrified of like haunted dolls and stuff. I think that Grady Hendrix does a great job with it because he leans in again to the camp of it, to the silliness of a puppet being haunted. He doesn't take it too seriously, and I think that's what makes it so much fun. And honestly, these scenes that happen to our main character when these dolls, puppets, whatever, attack her or like, go wild, they're terrifying. We get flashbacks from her past because these toys, mostly these puppets, are her mother's. Her mom made these puppets all throughout her life. As far back as she can remember, her mom was obsessed with making puppets, and it definitely goes into that. I have no idea where my train of thought is gone because I'm literally just picturing these puppets beating the crap out of each other and trying to attack her. Oh my god, it was so good. But what I will say is genuinely terrifying is those moments were terrifying, don't get me wrong, but there were a couple of scenes. One was a flashback. One involves her and her brother. It was a flashback. They were young. It was like a frozen lake, and it was so incredibly hard to read that I had to skip a lot of it. Like I had to kind of go through very fast because it was making me so uncomfortable. And I think that's a great sign of a book that's unsettling. And then our main character has a daughter who she leaves like back in her home state while she goes down and takes care of things. Her daughter is back with her dad. And when she comes back home to her daughter, things happen, and those scenes were also really hard to watch or to read. And I just loved it. I really did. It's fun, okay? It's fun. If you don't take this book seriously, like, yes, it does talk about some serious topics because of what they went through as kids, and then their mom and their mom's relationship with her puppets and stuff. It's all very interesting, and it does get a little bit dark. But I think that if you go into it just willing to have fun, you're going to like it. You can't not, I think. It's so good. I understand that it's not for everyone, but my God, was it for me. And I've been chasing the high of this book ever since I read it, and I want more books like this. All right, my sixth favorite book of 2023 is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Can you tell? Can you tell that I loved this book so much? This was my year. With Emily Henry, she and we clicked on a molecular level this year. I read almost all of her books this year. I read People We Meet on Vacation last year, I think, or the year before, but all of her other works I read this year, and they could have all made the list. I'm going to be honest with you. I sat and thought about if I should put Book Lovers or Beach Read in this spot for a very long time, because they are tied for me almost. But Book Lovers has the edge, and I think it's because there's not a moment of this book that isn't interesting, that isn't so investing. And I think that Beach Read sometimes can have those slow moments, whereas Book Lovers was so good the whole way through. So Book Lovers is about Nora. She's a literary agent, and she's known for being like very cutthroat, great at her job, and she's very focused on her career. And because she's so focused, she seems to be okay with not falling in love and having her own love story. She deals with love stories all day in her job, but she is so focused on her own career and stuff. She kind of knows that the happily ever after scenario may not be for her. She has a little sister named Libby, little as in like they're both in their 20s and 30s. But Libby is pregnant. She is going to be giving birth at any time now, and she really wants to go to Sunshine Falls, North Carolina with her sister as like a last little trip. Nora loves her little sister. She's going to do anything for Libby, so she does go, even though Sunshine Falls is the very popular small town that one of the authors that Nora deals with wrote a book that is very popular that takes place in Sunshine Falls. And it's like a love story. It's like a Hallmark movie kind of love story. And so Nora does not necessarily want to go visit this town, but Libby loves it so much. And so she does it for Libby. She goes there. She runs into Charlie, who is an editor that Nora is very familiar with, and they have a little bit of beef. They're definitely different people personality-wise, and obviously, you know, it's a love story, okay? We've got Charlie, we've got Nora, and what is really cute about this book is that it kind of is a Hallmark movie, just on paper. So I think that if you're a fan of those like Hallmark movie romances and the like cute little, every little romantic trope ever kind of movies and books, I think you would really like this. And it's all happening to Nora. Nora is very aware of how these little coincidences keep happening in Sunshine Falls, and instead of kind of fighting against it, she just kind of lets it happen to her. And the romance between her and Charlie is so freaking precious. What I really liked about this, and what I love about Emily Henry in general, is the girl knows how to write her main female character so well. It is, and what I really like more than anything is that all of her books, the main characters are vastly different from each other, yet they're all interesting and they're all relatable, and I don't know how she does it. Nora is a lot different than her other characters in the sense that she's very career focused. Yet, even though I am not like that at all, I found Nora to just be so interesting. Reading the discussions between Charlie and Nora as they talked about books, talked about their jobs, and how they look at the craft. I loved that. This is a good one. I'm just gonna start reading you some quotes. Are you freaking ready for it? I watched my friends in relationships make compromise after compromise, shrinking into themselves until they were nothing but a piece of a whole, until all their stories came from the past and their career aspirations, their friends, and their apartments were replaced by our aspirations, our friends, our apartment. Half lives that could be taken from them without any warning. Maybe this is how parents feel when their kids grow up, like some piece of them has become fundamentally unknowable. Ooh. Here's one more, okay, because I could go on forever. Feeling so entirely alone is unnerving, in the same way as staring at the ocean at night or watching thunderclouds form. In New York, it's impossible to escape the feeling of being one person among millions, as if you're all nerve endings in one vast organism. Here, it's easy to feel like the last person on Earth. I feel so passionate about Miss Emily Henry, and I love her so much. And this will not be the last time that you see her on this list. I love how every single time that I'm just describing a book to you, I'm just saying, oh, I loved it so much. I love it. Because I have no idea what else to say besides like to scream. My fifth favorite book of 2023 is Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. This is a book that really stuck with me, and I debated putting it higher on my list because, my God, did I love Starling House. So this is a book that follows Opal, and she, oh God, this book's so good. Opal has lived a shitty life. Like, I'm gonna be so real with you. Girlfriend's had the worst time. Her mom recently died. She had to take care of her brother Jasper ever since her mom died. They live in this really, really small, shitty town where the town itself feels like it's decaying. It's nasty, it's gross, nothing good happens from it, and she does describe it as like a rest stop of a town. Nobody wants to stay here. And Opal's just been trying to make do and survive. So they live in a hotel room. She works at Tractor Supply. You know, they do not eat much of anything. A luxurious meal to them is being able to actually go get a slice of pizza or go through the McDonald's drive-through and get something off the dollar menu. Like, that is a luxury to them. But Opal is putting in so much work to have Jasper succeed because she sees so much potential in Jasper and a passion. He likes to make short films, and so she really wants to push his education to get him into a really nice college or school so that he can thrive. That is the only thing that Opal is really living for at this point. And as we get these pieces, we also talk about this book called The Underland. That's kind of a cult classic. It's very small story that not a lot of people have heard of, but Opal remembers reading it and it just kind of changing her life. And the author of The Underland disappeared. So let's see, over 100 years ago. So there's a lot of interesting theories and discussion around The Underland because of the disappearance of the author. In their town, there is a haunted house, at least haunted looking house, called Starling House, and this is where the author is said to have stayed. Like, this was their home. And Opal has found herself so drawn to the Starling House. It's like it's calling to her, and when she walks by the house, she feels something in her body change. Like, she feels connected to the house. And at one point, Opal is walking home. She walks past Starling House just to look at it and kind of dream, and the gates swing open for her, and the rest is history. When we start talking, we meet Arthur, who currently resides at Starling House, and Arthur seems to be living in a nightmare. He looks like he hasn't slept in months. He's so tiny. It's like he's not eating, he's not sleeping. He looks sickly, and she is fascinated by Starling House, but more importantly, she's kind of fascinated by Arthur and why the fuck he looks like that and what is happening to him. But the main thing with Opal is that she is so hungry to survive, and she has to be selfish. She has to make decisions just based on survival. And so Opal finagles her way into the house and starts working there. She wants to make money, and she also wants to be able to snoop around this house that she's been fascinated with her whole life. But what's really interesting about Opal is she's not the kind of main character that just gets caught up in the whimsy and, you know, falls in love with the house immediately and falls in love with Arthur and the magic consumes her. Like, that is not our main character. Opal is so interesting. Opal's the kind of person that shows up at the crack of dawn to do her job so that she can get paid. She's gonna swipe a few little trinkets that are at the house, put it in her pocket so she can sell them on eBay later. And she's gonna lie to Arthur's face with a smile every single time that she comes into the house, and it puts on this facade every time. And it's, oh my god, Opal is so interesting as a character. I love her so much. And she doesn't want to be consumed by the magic of the house. She feels it drawn, like she feels drawn to the house. She feels the magic surrounding it, and she feels herself becoming attached to both Arthur and the house itself and what is in it. But she doesn't want to. She does not want to give in. She is so adamant that, like, she cannot be vulnerable. And I think that's why I found Opal to be so interesting. Things happen once Opal actually gets into the house because it's a big deal. Nobody gets to go into Starling House. Nobody seems to even go out. Like, nobody really knows of Arthur. If you live in Starling House, it's like you go in and you never come back. And so for someone like Opal to be going so casually in and out draws a lot of attention, and things happen from there. I found this book to be so captivating. The writing style is so atmospheric. It's a perfect fall read, I think. The descriptions of their shitty small town, so good. Opal as a character and the dissection of her, so good. There's also artwork within it. Oh my god. I think that this book is perfect if you love a dark, mild haunted house story, because the house is a personality, don't get me wrong, but it's not a horror book by any means. If you love an unlikable main character and a very interesting romance that I would argue is pretty slow burn, if you like magic and magical houses and dark entities and all of that stuff, I think that this is a book that is for you. And honestly, I wish more people read this book because it's deserving of all the praise and all the hype that it's gotten. All right, my number 4 book of the year is You Can't Say That, which was edited by Leonard S. Marcus. I actually have a vlog where I read You Can't Say That, which I will link down below, but this is a collection of interviews, really. The interviews are with authors that have had their works banned or questioned or attempted to be banned, and the discussion that Leonard has with the authors, just kind of talking about what it takes to be considered a banned book, what about their works was ban worthy, the importance of not having banned literature, the discussions that come once your book is questioned. It was so fascinating to me, especially because I think Leonard does a great job of getting a range. He gets books that are for younger children and talks about banned books in that area. We have middle grade, we have a young adult, so we get a good variety, and the reasoning why they were banned is also different. One author that comes to mind that he has a discussion with is Angie Thomas, that I just found so interesting with The Hate U Give. And frustrating more than anything, because as a former teacher of middle school kids, older middle school kids, I had so many of them that found comfort and solace in The Hate U Give. That was a book on my shelves that was constantly checked out, that I had a line for. Kids could not get that in their hands fast enough. Yet our librarian was the type of person that wouldn't allow kids to check it out unless they came to her, specifically asked for it, and then she said that if she knew their character and who they were, and if she could trust them to read it, then they were allowed to read it, which was so fucked. Because guess what? A lot of the kids that wanted to read this book, that found it to be comforting, that found a relatability and a connection in it, that made them passionate about reading, yeah, those kids probably had lots of referrals, and those kids were considered the problem kids in our school. Yet this book gave them so much and actually sparked an interest in education in them. So it was so frustrating to me that that book was being essentially gatekept in our school. Oh, I could go on about it forever, but I think that's what You Can't Say That does for me. Is it fires me up, man. The importance of literature and the importance of not having banned works is just so, oh, it gets me going. And the thing is this is not a black or white issue. I do think that there is a gray area, and there are books that, yes, obviously, books involving like pedophiles and murder, yeah, that shouldn't be allowed for kindergartners to read. Fucking duh. Like, come on. But a book that's centered to elementary school kids to teach them about the human body, to teach them what each of their body parts is called, that's not ban-worthy. That's education. That's science. That's learning that you have a vagina and that you have an anus. Not to mention the stupid bans like, oh, this has witchcraft in it, or, you know, oh, this has like profanity or whatever. Give me a freaking break. But there's an example, and I wish I could remember the author, but there's an author that wrote a book that got banned because it was teaching body parts and like what the body parts are for and whatever, where there was a whole trial that happened because a child who read this book said that, like, oh, this is what that is, and found out that she was being essentially molested by someone in her family. I think it was her father or her uncle, because she read the book and recognized the body parts and realized that she was being touched inappropriately. And that book saved her. It brought justice. There was a whole trial. They went to jail because that book taught her something valuable and important. And it's like, to ban something like that, the math is not mathing. I don't know, man. If you're someone who wants to know more and learn more about banned books and the concept of a banned book, I think that this is a great place to start, because it is just interviews with these authors that have had their books put into question. And honestly, I think it'll get you fired up. But if anything, I want people to read this because I want people to realize that there is so much more to the concept of banning books than just little children shouldn't be reading about having sex and punching people in the face. Duh, we know that. And there is so much more to what makes a book banned, and that's the problem. Books are getting banned for the stupidest reasons, and like, we're not discussing how we are limiting our children, our teenagers, our young adults. I could go on. I gotta stop because like that book gets me so fired up, but I highly recommend You Can't Say That. Read it. Ooh, we're in our top 3. All right, so my number 3 is, I believe, the first book I read last year, and it has stuck with me the whole year. I think about this book a lot, and it's Men We Reaped by Jesmyn Ward. This is essentially a memoir from Jesmyn's life, and she discusses her life growing up. But really what the core of it is Jesmyn's talking about all the men in her life that have died from one reason or another. And this book is focused on the topic of Black men in Black culture and Black men in America, which I found to be super insightful, because I don't think that we get books like that talk about masculinity, that talk about Black men like this. I think it's 4. She breaks it down into, I believe, 4 men that have had something happen to them in their lives. Tragic deaths. How it all relates back to America and the culture and the discussion and the perception of Black men, what's expected of them. It's so sad. This book, it definitely talks about class issues as well, like the way that lower class is treated and how that affected Black men. Like being the father of a family that's in the lower class, the expectations and the pressure surrounding that. It was a tough read. I cried a lot. There are so many tragic deaths that happen in this book and her discussions of it. Ward is a fantastic writer. She's almost lyrical. She's poetic. Her words feel like they're dripping with honey. Ward is, I think, one of the best writers that I have come across in my lifetime. I wish that more people read this book. This is a book that I think out of my entire top 10, this is the book that I think every single person should read and could read. I think this is a book for everyone. If you have any empathy at all, I think that this is a book for you. I went so back and forth on these two. I did not know which one was going to be my number one or my number two, but I sat down and thought about it for, honest to God, like an hour, and I finally came to a decision. So my second favorite book of 2023 is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. The most shocking revelation to me. A book that I was not expecting to rank this highly, first of all, but for me to even like it was the most surprising thing to happen to me in 2023. If you did not know, I have a very love-hate relationship with Riley Sager. I loved Home Before Dark and I really enjoyed Lock Every Door, but I absolutely despised Survive the Night and I despised The House Across the Lake. I think that is one of the worst books that I've ever read. And so when this book was being announced, I was thinking to myself, this is going to be it. This is my last book of Riley Sager's. If I do not like it, then I'm done. I'm done with Riley Sager. I'm not putting up with it anymore. This is going to be the book that makes or breaks like my relationship with the author. And I did a vlog where I read this book as well, I believe for Summerween, and I am so happy to say that this book was not only his best work, one of my favorite books that I have read in quite some time, and it definitely solidified Riley Sager as an author that I'm going to continue to try. Because if I would have given up, I would have never read this book, and I think I would be devastated to just have never read The Only One Left. This book takes place in 1983, although we do get some flashbacks. In the present day, it's 1983, and we have Kit, who is a home health aide. Like, she comes in and takes care of mostly the elderly, and she had something happen at work that really affected her career, and she got into some hot water, and her boss basically said, like, okay, you are going to be assigned to this person, Lenora Hope. Good luck, have fun. You're not getting anything else because you're lucky that you have a job. And Kit is immediately shocked by this because Lenora Hope is very infamous in their town. This takes place in Maine because Lenora is in the Hope family, and the Hope family murders of 1929 is something that is like a ghost tale within their town. It's said that when Lenora, at 17, Lenora Hope hung her sister with a rope, stabbed her father with a knife, took her mother's happy life. It wasn't me, Lenora said, but she's the only one not dead. This idea of Lenora essentially killing her entire family is something that has haunted her, and her entire town talks about it, right? She's like this big, scary person who's now extremely old. She's, how old is she? 70s? Yeah. So Lenora is now in her 70s. She's confined to a wheelchair, and she's completely mute. She does not talk at all. And she lives up in the cliffs on this beautiful little mansion that her family once lived in. And she needs someone to take care of her. That's where Kit comes in. Kit gets assigned the role of being Lenora's caregiver. She has to go up and live in the house with her and take care of her. And she's terrified because of the, infamous story of Lenora Hope killing her family, and now she's taking care of this, once killer. Oh my God, like, it's scary. And so we get flashbacks between the present day of Kit taking care of Lenora, and then we also have Lenora, she is like writing her story on a typewriter. She's typing it to what we think is Kit, and it's like her tell-all, essentially. She can't speak it, so she's not like verbally saying the story of what really happened that night, but she's able to put it onto paper by using the typewriter. And so we go back and forth with the flashbacks of Lenora talking about the murders in the late 1920s. Kit is trying to find out what actually happened, because Lenora is kind of giving her the opportunity to know what actually happened. You also have a little bit of a "is this house haunted" vibe to it. It's extremely atmospheric, and also you have to keep in mind that this house that is very old, that's living at the cliffs of Maine, is starting to decay, and so there's like a constant risk where Kit is terrified that the house is just going to crumble into the ocean one day, and she has to live in this house that she is seeing visible cracks on the wall and just thinking, I'm going to die in this house. This book surprised the hell out of me. I thought I knew where this book was going, and I say this in my vlog. I was so confident that I had something pinned, and part of it I was kind of right, and then there was another part that I was so wrong that my jaw dropped when I read it. And I think that's what this book does really well, is it keeps you on your toes. It's pretty fast paced, and once you get going, once Kit gets in the house with Lenora, I feel like the intensity never stops. Oh, I forgot to mention that Lenora also doesn't move. Like, she's completely immobile, so that's why Kit is there, because Kit has to like feed her, change her, put her in the bath. And Kit is actually the one writing Lenora's story for her. Like, Kit will bring the paper and the typewriter to her and place her hands, but somehow Lenora is able to type it or something. I think that's what was interesting, is like you have Kit slowly figuring out the truth, questioning all the people that live in the house. Like, there's a groundskeeper, there's she's like the lady of the estate. I don't even know how to describe that, but and then there's the groundskeeper and the cook, and there are a couple other people that work there. So she's like questioning all of that. She is learning more about Lenora. You question Lenora, is she telling the truth? There's so much of this book that you just kind of theorizing as you read it, and it was very entertaining for that reason. Nothing was a letdown. Nothing felt gimmicky, which is something that happens with Riley Sager's books all the time that pisses me off, is I feel like he has these reveals that are so stupid and unearned, and that's what makes me so mad with a lot of them. But this has not happened with The Only One Left. I feel like he did a really good job of reining it in this time, and so everything feels earned, everything feels important and shocking, and I think it is his best work to date, and I cannot wait for Riley's next book that comes out this year. Let me make sure I'm still filming. Oh my god, an hour? You're kidding. Okay, we're at my last book. My favorite book of the year. The book that feels like it was written for me. I'm gonna try not to squeal, but it's Happy Place by Emily Henry. Emily Henry's best work. I don't care if you disagree with me. I'm right, you're wrong, shut up. Like, it's so good. It's so good. This book single-handedly changed my life. I had to like kind of get comfy to talk about it because I could go forever, but I read this book summer of 2023, maybe spring, when it came out. Goddamn, if Emily Henry did not take my brain out of my head, go through it, and make me like the perfect book, then what did she do? How has this resonated with me so much? This follows Harriet, who feels, again, just so much like me that it's a little bit crazy. Harriet has a friend group that she met in college that means so much to her. It's her found family. They are her best friends, and they go to Maine every summer, essentially, because one of her friends has a little like beachside cottage in Maine where they all meet up every summer and have like this amazing trip together where they reconnect. They have so many memories in Maine in this house. And Harriet finds out that this is the last year that they are going to be able to take this vacation because her friend's dad is selling the beach house. And so this is a very like sad trip for them where they're all getting together one last time to have this, amazing experience. And obviously they can take other trips. They could get another cottage or whatever in Maine, but it's just the significance of this being a central point in all of their lives where they all meet up and have had so many memories. I totally get that. The tricky part about this situation is that her fiance, Wynn, who she also met in college, he has always gone on these trips with them. He is a part of their friend group. But the friends do not know that Harriet and Wynn, who were once engaged, have been on a break and have not spoken to each other in months. There are some circumstances that happen that essentially Harriet and Wynn realize that they have to take this trip together and they have to pretend that they're still engaged in order to kind of save face and make the trip memorable and happy. Because if they come to the trip and it's just Harriet or it's just Wynn, or they both come and say like, hey, we're not really together anymore, it kind of shatters the image of the whole trip and everything is ruined. And they don't want to ruin the trip because of something that happens. So they say like, all right, we're just gonna have to play that we're still together so that everybody's happy. That is essentially what this book is it's the trip in Maine. It's the relationship between Harriet and Wynn, what happened to them. It focuses a lot on the found family and like all of the friends and the little connections between them. But goddamn, if this book isn't sad. Like, this book is sad. I think it's Emily Henry's most emotional work. Beach Read could really be closely behind it, but I do think that this book is the most just gut-wrenching. Especially because it focuses on Harriet and Wynn and what happened to them. And it shows their relationship, where they got started, and it shows what happens leading to them having to separate. And it was really hard to read sometimes, because I think that this is a couple that you're really rooting for and you understand why they broke it off, and you can understand the hurt between the two of them, and it all feels very valid. And I think that is something that is tricky in romance, because romance can tend to follow the same beats every time. And I think that's why writing romance can be tricky, because they tend to have the same beats every time, and you have to find a way to make it unique and to make it your own. And I think that Emily Henry does that really well with Happy Place, to where all of these beats, though they are typical in a romance story, she makes it so human and makes it feel so real in a way that I can't like put into words. Oh God, there's so many good quotes in this book. And before I read some of the quotes, I want to say, I think the reason that I love this book so much is that, for one, I think that the relationship between Harriet and Wynn is beautiful. I think that Wynn is my favorite male love interest in Emily Henry's works. I found Harriet to be the most relatable character to me in literature. I think she's up there with Meg from Little Women. I think Harriet's got the edge. I saw so much of myself in Harriet, and it actually hurt to see it put onto paper, because I didn't think that I could see myself so much in one person, in one fictional woman, as I did with Harriet. So that definitely gave it a little bit of an edge. But what I really liked about it is that I have my best friends, my found family that I met when I was like 14 years old, who are still my best friends in the entire world. And we used to take basically a yearly trip to my husband's grandparents had a beach house, and we would go every year, our friend group, and we would have the most amazing time. We have some of the best memories ever at that beach house that I will never forget. And I remember when they said they were selling it and it was our last trip, and it was so hard to know that like those moments were ending, and we haven't had a trip quite like it since. And so I felt everything that these characters were feeling with their last trip. I felt myself, and I have felt before when it happened to me. So that I think gave it a little bit of the edge. Plus the fact that I have visited Maine, and my husband's family, a lot of them are from Maine. So the discussion surrounding Maine and the setting and stuff, I liked as well because I've experienced it. So it felt, like I said, it felt like this was a book for me. This is literally the first lines of this book. A cottage on the rocky shoreline with knotty pine floorboards and windows that are nearly always open. The smell of evergreens and brine wafting in on the breeze, and the white linen drapes lifting in a lazy dance. The burble of a coffee maker, and that first deep pull of cold ocean air as we step out onto the flagstone patio, steaming mugs in hand. Like, if that ain't a line for me, what is? Like, come on. There's more. There's so much more. What can you feel? Sunlight everywhere, not just on my bare shoulders or the crown of my head, but inside me too. The irresistible warmth that comes only from being in the exact right place with the exact right people. No, you want more? I can give you more. Hold on. It's that happy, sad feeling, that intense homesick ache. It makes me think of my semester abroad, not the old cobbled streets or the tiny pubs overstuffed with drunk university students, but Sabrina and Cleo FaceTiming me at midnight to sing happy birthday. The feeling of being so grateful to have something worth missing. Ooh, oh my God. There is this line, hold. This line punched me in the face. I'll end it here because this one was, oh my God. Afraid people will take me too seriously, then be disappointed when they find out how mediocre I am at it. And somehow nearly as afraid that they wouldn't take it seriously, that they brush it off with a mild, well, everyone needs a hobby, when it feels like so much more. Not a career. I'm not good at it. Something else. The place I go to when I feel trapped inside myself, when I'm terrified that all my happiest moments belong to the past, when my body is humming with too much of something, or aching from too little, and life stretches out ahead of me like a threat. Ugh. This book is so good. I am connected to this book. It is a piece of me. I can't even recommend it to people a lot of the times. If I recommend this book to you, I trust you. And guess what? I recommended it to someone I trust, and they didn't love it as much as I did, and it hurt. And I know it shouldn't feel personal because everybody has their own taste in books, but my God, it broke me. So I'm not recommending this book to any of you. You can't have it. It's mine. I'm gatekeeping it. But that's it. Those were my favorite books of 2023. I hope you enjoyed this video, and there will be plenty of more content to come. Hopefully I'll be filming my favorite movies of the year as well, but that's it for now. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.